Life-changing encounters. A divine encounter. The story of a woman who had an encounter with Jesus was told in John chapter 4. The woman was a Samaritan, but Jesus was a Jew. The Jews don't have anything to do with the Samaritans because they regarded them as unclean. However, despite the fact that the Jews and Samaritans don't relate, this woman had a divine encounter with Jesus. Do not overestimate yourself and underestimate others. Do not think that you are better than others. Even when you are better than others, keep this to yourself. No one has anything that he or she has not received from God. Everything you possess, you have received them, and so there is no need to boast about them. Jesus went through Samaria for a purpose. One of the reasons for going through Samaria is for Jesus to break the tradition of men, especially when this does not glorify God. It may have been practiced for donkey years. It does not matter. Any human tradition, human practice, or human belief that does not glorify God should not stand. When these traditions compete with God's will in our lives, the will of God must take preeminence and the human traditions must give way so that God will take all his glory. There is a higher realm than we can think of. The woman was satisfied with the water in the well. When Jesus told her of a better water, she was surprised and then asked Jesus to give her this water. She never thought of this water that will never make her thirst again. You may be okay and comfortable with what you have achieved, but there is always a higher realm. It does not matter where you have reached in life, there is always a higher place that you can get to. Don't be satisfied with your level. Aim higher. Those who worship God must worship him in spirit and truth because God himself is spirit. God is not limited by space and time. God is not limited to the places of worship. God is looking for people who will let their spirit, soul, and body worship him. God is looking for people who will let their spirit, soul, and body be a place where God can be worshipped. God is looking for people who will let their totality worship God. Will you be available? Will you position yourself for a divine encounter? Change priorities. Whenever a person meets God, or when God meets a person, one thing is certain. A divine encounter happens and priorities are changed. A very good example of a man who had a changed priority because of a divine encounter with God was Moses. In the ancient Egypt, Moses has just fled and escaped the threat of Pharaoh because he tried to protect an Israelite but ended up killing an Egyptian. In the desert, Moses helped two sisters who came to feed their father's sheep. As a result of this singular act of kindness, Moses got an accommodation without any cost. He eventually got a wife. You don't know the act of kindness that you will do that will land you the breakthroughs you have been expecting. You don't know the next step that will open up your breakthroughs. Be kind and be kind at all times. Moses remained in this family until the day he had an encounter that changed his life forever. In the desert, Moses saw a fire within the grass, but the grass was not burning. It was the unburning grass that Moses wanted to see. Instead, God appeared to him right in the fire. God spoke to Moses right from the middle of the fire, and the encounter changed Moses' life forever. This singular encounter changed Moses' priorities from leading sheep to becoming the deliverer and the lawgiver of the ancient Israel. God may be using something in your present circumstances to get your attention. He may be giving you an opportunity to have an encounter with Him. He may be trying to change your priorities. When God changes your priorities, He changes your life for good forever. Will you allow God to change your priorities? A change of plan. In the ancient Israel, a man named Saul had a plan. He wanted to go to Damascus in Syria to capture Christians and persecute them because of their faith. He wanted to put them in bondage and bring them back to Jerusalem in chains. God had a different plan for Saul, and this led to a divine encounter between him and God, his maker. On his way to Damascus, a shining light from heaven came on Saul, and he became blind as a result. Though the people that were traveling with him saw no one, God called Paul and told him that it was impossible for him to fight God. Then God told him He had a different plan for him. This single encounter changed Saul's life forever and defined what he lived and stood for to date. At this time, God changed Saul's plan and thereby changed his life. His name was later changed from Saul to Paul. Whenever God has an encounter with a person, there will always be a change of plan. In the case of Saul, the encounter he had with God changed his plan. Saul thought he would go to Damascus to put Christians in chains, but God changed his plan. Starting from Damascus, Saul began to preach to people about Jesus. You may be in a position that God is changing your plan. Unlike Paul, who had planned to punish others, your plan may be to do something positive, yet God may still change it. One thing is certain, every change of plan by God is for a purpose and for good reason. Although it may sometimes be difficult for you to handle, this change of plans is always a happy ending. If and when God changes your plans, it is for your good. Any plan that is drawn up by God will lead you into success. Will you let God change you and change your plans?